The day my grandfather passed away, I found something hidden inside his old wooden box, a small envelope, with my name written on it. But the most shocking thing was not the letter. It was the date written on the corner. The letter was written many years before that day, before I even became the person I was. And the first line inside that letter changed the way I looked at my entire life. It said, "One day you will be so busy chasing the future that you will forget the people who were always there for you." At that moment, I realized my grandfather knew something about life that I was too young to understand. When I was a child, my grandfather was my best friend. Every weekend I would run to his old house just to spend time with him. His house was not big. The furniture was old. The walls had marks from years of memories. But somehow, that place always felt warmer than anywhere else. My grandfather had a simple life. He didn't have expensive cars. He didn't wear fancy clothes. He didn't have a lot of money. But he had something rare, a peaceful heart. Every evening he would sit near the window with his cup of tea. I would sit beside him and ask him random questions. "Grandpa, why are you always happy?" He would smile and say, "Because I stopped counting what I don't have and started appreciating what I already have." Back then, I didn't understand those words. I was just a kid. I thought happiness came from new things, new toys, new clothes, getting everything I wanted. But years later, I realized my grandfather was teaching me the most important lesson of my life. Whenever I made a mistake, he never shouted at me. He never made me feel small. He would just sit beside me and say, "Making mistakes is not the problem. The problem is refusing to learn from them." Then he would smile and add, "Life will teach you many lessons, but the best ones come from people who truly love you." I didn't know it at that time. But those small conversations were becoming memories. Memories that I would one day wish I could experience again. As I grew older, everything started changing. School became busy. Friends became important. Then came college. Then work. And slowly, the boy who used to spend every weekend with his grandfather started finding reasons not to visit. My grandfather would call me sometimes. He would say, "Come visit me. I want to tell you something." And I would always reply, "Grandpa, I'm busy today. I'll come soon." I thought I had plenty of time. I thought there would always be another day. But I didn't know. Sometimes the people waiting for us are the same people we don't get enough time with later. After some time, my grandfather started getting older. His voice became weaker. He walked slower than before. But every time I visited him, he still smiled like nothing had changed. One day I finally went to see him after a long time. When I entered his house, everything felt the same. The old chair near the window, the smell of his tea, the small table where we used to sit together. But something was different. My grandfather looked at me quietly and smiled. Then he said, "I was wondering when you would come." Those words hit me, because I realized he was not angry that I stayed away. He was just happy that I was finally there. That day we spent hours talking. He told me stories about his childhood, about the struggles he faced, about the mistakes he made, and about the things he wished he understood earlier. Then suddenly he became serious. He looked at me and said, "Listen carefully. One day you will understand this." I asked, "What?" He smiled and said, "People spend their whole life trying to collect things, but at the end, the only thing they really keep is the love they gave and received." At that moment, I just listened. I didn't know those words would stay with me forever. Before I left that day, he held my hand and said something I still remember. "Promise me one thing," I asked. "What?" He said, "Never become so busy building your future that you forget the people who helped you get there." I smiled and said, "I promise, Grandpa." But deep inside, I thought I had more time. A few weeks passed. Life became busy again. Work, responsibilities, daily problems. And slowly, I went back to my old routine. I told myself, I will visit him next weekend. But that weekend never came. One night, My phone rang. It was my mother. The moment I answered, I could feel something was wrong. Her voice was quiet. She said, "Come home." I asked, "What happened?" There was a long silence. Then she said, "Your grandfather is not doing well." My heart dropped. I immediately left. During the entire journey, one thought kept coming to my mind. I should have visited him earlier. When I reached his house, I saw him lying on the bed. He looked tired, but the moment he saw me, his face changed. He smiled, a real smile. He looked at me and said, "I knew you would come." I sat beside him and held his hand. For the first time, I noticed how old his hands had become. The same hands that held mine when I was a child. The same hands that guided me. The same hands that were always there. That night, I stayed with him. We talked. We laughed. We remembered old moments. And before sleeping, he said something strange. He said, "There is something I want you to have, but only after I'm gone." I looked at him and asked, "What is it?" He smiled. "You will know when the time comes." I didn't understand what he meant, but those words stayed in my mind, 'cause deep down, I felt like my grandfather was saying goodbye. The next morning, I woke up with a strange feeling. For some reason, I didn't want to leave. I wanted to sit there longer. I wanted to hear his stories again. I wanted to go back to those days when I was a child and everything felt simple. But life doesn't always give us the extra time we ask for. I had to leave. Before I walked out of the door, my grandfather looked at me and said, "That day changed something inside me." Before that, I was always chasing the next thing. More money, more success, more achievements. I thought one day when everything was perfect, I would finally spend time with the people I loved. But my grandfather taught me something important. Life is not waiting for the perfect moment. Life is the small moments we already have. After that day, I started changing. I called my family more. I visited people instead of making excuses. I listened when someone wanted to talk. I stopped thinking that being busy meant being successful. Because what is the point of reaching the top if there is no one beside you to share it with? Months passed, but my grandfather's lesson stayed with me. Sometimes when life became difficult, I remembered his voice. I remembered him sitting near the window with his tea. And I remembered his words. Be grateful for the people who make your life beautiful. Years later, I found myself sitting in the same chair where my grandfather used to sit, holding a cup of tea, looking out of the window, and I smiled, because I finally understood. My grandfather didn't leave me money. He didn't leave me a big house. He left me something much more valuable. A way to see life. So if you are watching this story, remember one thing. Don't wait until someone is gone to realize their importance. Call that person. Visit that person. Tell them you love them. Because one day, the only thing we will have left are the memories we created with the people who mattered. And maybe, the greatest gift we can give someone is not something we buy. It is our time. Andy.